EduTechGuys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency. Hello and welcome to this edition of the EduTechGuys, coming to you live from Hope, Arkansas. I'm Jeff Matlock, and my partner in crime, David Henderson, is not here today. He's on vacation, so we took vacation, but I'm here. Who knows? Dave's listening right now. He's probably going, what's he talking about? So this show is going to be a best of. You know, interesting though, all of our shows are great shows. All of our interviews are great interviews. But this one, I've put together just some in the past months that we really liked. I've got the guys from Go Guardian, 2 separate interviews from those guys. Not the full interviews, but some really good sessions. And I've also got Kevin Honeycutt. Going to take a listen to him. I've also got some great music coming up from several of our favorite artists. We'll break up the show a little bit there. Remember, you can always catch us on the web at www.edutechguys.com. If you're listening to us right now, you might be listening to us from radio.edutechguys.com. You can catch us there. Catch us on Twitter at EduTechGuys. Facebook /EduTechGuys. Instagram EduTechGuys. I think you see the pattern here. So yeah, you can catch us on the web. Just go to Google, type in EduTechGuys, and you're probably going to find us pretty quickly. So yeah, today's show, we want to give a big shout out and thank the Southwest Arkansas Educational Cooperative for their continued support, as they always do. And I want to give a shout out to Hope Public Schools for letting me also do this show, and all the support that they've thrown behind us for all the good stuff that's happening here. Today we'll also talk about a Google App of the Week, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's just some nice stuff that they do. We've already talked about Google Apps throughout the year, and it's one of our favorite things to do here. If you missed us last week, we were at the Hot Springs Technology Institute. I want to give a big shout out to Don Benton for inviting us. We had a wonderful time. It was a great place to be. Lots of great stuff. We're currently editing those interviews down and some of the interviews we had from the attendees, and it was a lot of fun. So I think you'll enjoy those. Once we get them done, we'll get them up on the podcast, throw them out on the Twitter so you can catch up with them and find out what's going on. Also, a few places we're going to be. It's on into the fall. The summer's not over. If you'd like us to come to your school district or to your educational event, let us know. Go to www.edutechguys.com, drop down to the bottom of the page, and you'll find the contact form. Just fill it out. Let us know what's going on, where you want us to be, and we'll do our darndest to get there. Also, in December, we will be, November 30th through December 3rd, we'll be at the AESA conference in Savannah, Georgia. And then one of the big ones coming up for us is not until January, but it's the FETSI conference in Orlando, Florida. Probably stuff dropping in there in between. It changes daily for us. Want to thank everyone for the support that they give us constantly, and it's a lot of fun. You can't beat a job where you get to talk about educational technology on the radio, or the podcast, I guess, as it is. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to jump into some great stuff here. This is an interview we did back in late April, and I think it was late April. Maybe this was beginning of May. This is the beginning of May, and this is Go Guardian's Tyler Shaddix, and he will talk with us, and we'll have a nice little discussion about some of the teacher features in Go Guardian. Take a listen. Hope you enjoy, and I'll be back in just a bit. So what's the top 5-10 major features of the whole piece?
Sure. Like I said, one of our main goals is connecting teachers and students. So we do this through a few ways that you would expect and a few kind of more interesting ways. So right off the bat, we allow teachers to see the screens of the students while they're in class and also see what they're currently browsing. And this allows teachers to kind of connect with all their students at once and see exactly what they're working on, what other stuff they're kind of doing, and things like that. We also allow for teachers to see kind of historically what students have been working on. So you can actually see in kind of like a mosaic color scheme of what's everyone doing, how are they kind of interacting throughout the class period. And I'll get into some stories later about how teachers are using this to kind of craft their lesson.
Wow.
And so this all kind of fills the how do I see what my students are working on and how they're interacting. But we have a whole other side of the equation, which is how do teachers lead students? And so that's provided by a few different options. We have the ability to open tabs for students. So you could say, hey, everyone, we're going to go to this website, or just a group of students, we're going to go to this help article. So some instances we've seen of this is a teacher sees someone struggling. They open a new tab to a help article on some math website that says, this is how you would solve this problem, and here are the steps. We also provide ways to shift focus. So we can actually allow a teacher to lock down all the screens in their classroom to make sure students are focusing up front and the technology is not a distraction. And you can do all kinds of fun things like that with that, like include pictures and memes, and we've seen a bunch of fun stuff with that. And finally, there's a few other features. We allow Google Classroom integration for really quick setup, and we even allow snapshots of the screens when a student's doing really cool work, or you need to catalog the student behavior for whatever reason. So really, it's all about facilitating that connected environment between the teacher and the student.
That is amazing.
That's really awesome.
The linear part you just showed with the student activity over the timeline. That is.
We're gonna have to put a screenshot of that on Twitter.
We're happy to provide those. And it's definitely one of those things that you seeing is one of those believing things where you see it and you're like, now I get why that would be useful. Because sometimes you're describing it to people and it's like, that sounds pretty, but there really is a nice aspect to it.
Right. Sure. As a teacher, you can step back after class. You're exactly right, and take a good long look at it and go, okay, here's where I lost interest. This is not working. So next time I do this, or tomorrow, this is what I'm going to hit instead. Yeah, That's pretty amazing. Yep. What's really cool about that too is my brain immediately just starts thinking of 1,000 things, and that even takes classes that are taught around the world. So you could have students sitting in different cities around the world doing the same thing, and you're monitoring and watching and sharing. That's very impressive.
Exactly.
Very impressive.
Exactly. And we have some amazing stories from our teacher community just with how they've been using it, which I'm happy to dive into at any point.
Yeah,
now's a good time.
Get
on the board and start jumping.
The comment you just mentioned reminded me of one of my favorites. When we were first releasing the product, we had a few group of teachers who were really excited about it, so we released it to them first. And one of the stories we heard from them is the teacher had a doctor's appointment, so she had to leave, and of course she had a substitute in the class. So when she was sitting there in the waiting room, she said, hey, why don't I get out my phone and log on to GoGuardian for Teachers and see what my students are up to, because they're in class right now. So she actually went online, watched and saw some students were off task, and started emailing them and blocking their screens and stuff. Nice. And sending them messages and saying, hey, get back on task, behave for the sub. That's cool. So the sub, she gets back to class the next day, and she goes through the sub's notes, and all the notes say is the kids were oddly quiet. And that was awesome. So it was this really amazing experience for her to be able to remove herself physically from the classroom and still be able to give insight into what was going on.
That's fantastic.
So along that line of all the epiphanies that teachers have after they begin using it, so on the line of a question we just got on the ETG chat, hashtag ETG chat, if you want to ask a question, how did GoGuardian decide to create GoGuardian for Teachers? What moved them to actually create the piece?
It's a great question. Basically, there was a huge need for it. One of the best things about working in education is educators know what they want and they know where the problems are. So they basically came to GoGuardian and they said, hey, it's working at an admin level, like you talked about last week. It's working great. How can we turn this into a more intimate relationship at a classroom level for our teachers? And so that's really where the idea came from, is how can we build a strong connection at a classroom level that teachers can really know what's happening with technology in their classroom, and how can they not worry about what's happening with it? If you're in a classroom and you're sitting there at your desk or at the board and everyone's screens are the opposite way from you, you always worry what's actually going on behind there. Right, exactly. And this is one of those ways where you can immediately know. And we've actually seen teachers project their screens dashboard or their timeline dashboard on a projector onto the front screen, so that they can go and point to which students are doing really cool work, and also it's a nice transparency thing. Everyone knows what everyone's working on.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty neat.
That is very cool.
Well, it's really cool to see that too, because one kid might hit the perfect Google search or hit the perfect YouTube video or Vimeo. They might hit the perfect site, and then every kid could see the same site and go, bam, that's where I need to go. And then that's that's just organic growth in the classroom right there. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've been doing this a long time. We've all been doing this a long time. We've seen everything from Land School to SurfLock to there's been a bunch of products out there. But the one thing I can say, having used the administration side, is setup is a breeze.
Right.
So I'm guessing that it's all based the same way that if my groups are already created, my OUs are created inside Google, then boom, the classrooms are done, aren't they?
Right. For the most part, we have a Google Classroom integration where you can just sync your Google Classroom across, and it'll create the classrooms and keep them in sync for you. And we also have a CSV and emails. So even if for whatever reason it's not set up correctly, a teacher can drop a CSV file and have all those classrooms populated for you.
That's awesome.
So it really is a 1-2 step thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another way we do it, which is if the teacher doesn't want to be as hands-on, we even have an enroll code that students can just enter on their Chromebook, and it'll enroll them in the correct class.
That's
Just
awesome.
much like Google
exactly.
Classroom. You know, that's funny because we just had another question pop up on ETG chat. Does GoGuardian for Teachers work in any class subject? Well, yes, it does.
We have seen it in some phenomenally different ways. Like I said, and some of the stories, some people are using it for mostly the timeline view, some are using it for the screens view. It's really interesting the different ways people have crafted it to work in their environment.
That's pretty neat.
So,
you know, a lot of administrators are using Google Classroom to run their administration meetings. Especially,
Wow. That makes sense.
you know, they will create a principals meeting classroom, you know, so that every week when they meet with principals, you know, and this takes it to that next level because a lot of principal meetings start off with 15 minutes of here's what we're doing right now, and then now let's brainstorm, let's learn, let's talk curriculum, let's talk integration, and this gives that superintendent or principal the ability to keep the whole thing flowing like a classroom.
Right.
It's a beautiful piece. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And one other piece I wanted to bring up just in terms of the easy use is we released a feature actually Monday called scheduling, where teachers can actually set up classes to automatically
Uh-oh.
Apparently, that would be the stopping of the
their class.
Hey, can you say that again?
Wait, we lost
had
you there for a
we had
minute.
a little glitch.
Oh, okay, no problem. I was mentioning we just released a feature called scheduling on Monday where it'll actually start the classrooms automatically based on the class schedule.
Oh, nice.
So teachers don't need to log in to start collecting or interacting with the students.
Awesome.
They can actually just assume that it started and log in whenever they're ready.
You know,
So that's kind of less friction part of the whole equation.
Right.
Yeah.
and that's beautiful because a lot of schools and you know a lot of schools are starting to look at extended school days, and you know changing the way that class, especially in the secondary, not necessarily primary, but elementary, but in the secondary realm, that you're actually giving them this power to hold class at any time. I mean, most teachers would love that ability,
Right.
And it doesn't stop.
Exactly.
You know, kids are taking home Chromebooks. The class never ends, and the teacher is able to still see. You know, hey, Mr. Manlock, I'm having trouble with math. Let me see what you're doing right now. Great. Hey, here's some websites to help you out. That's pretty amazing. And since it's the speed of light now, and you guys have integrated it with Chrome so beautifully, it's going to work. Yeah. So, hey, you're listening to EduTechGuys Radio, come to you live from Hope, Arkansas. And David is on vacation. And so to keep the consistency of the show going, like I didn't have anything else to do. No, you're listening to the Best Of Show. So I'm playing some interviews that we really enjoyed. Not that we don't enjoy all of our interviews. We do. These are some from the last couple of months. And that was Tyler Shaddix with GoGuardian talking about the teacher version of GoGuardian and what it can do for teachers, what it can do for classrooms. And I can tell Greg and David and I were really into it. And we're very interested in the product. And we actually use a product where I work. So I can vouch for it. So, yeah, don't forget to check us out on Twitter, twitter.com at EduTechGuys. You can catch us on Facebook, facebook.com/EduTechGuys. You can also catch us on the web, www.edutechguys.com. Tell you what, we're going to listen to one more great interview with the guys from GoGuardian. This is Matt Jones, and this is a nice little 8 to 10 minute interview. I think it's about 10 minutes. We're talking with Matt about some of the features of the GoGuardian admin piece, which is a really wonderful piece, and I think you'll enjoy this interview. So stay tuned to EduTech Guys. We'll be right back after this interview.
How many products does GoGuardian have?
Right now, GoGuardian has 2 products, GoGuardian for admins and GoGuardian for teachers.
Which is cool, and that works out really well because this week we're talking about admin, and next week we're talking about teachers. So cool.
That's awesome. So tell us about the admin piece. I was going to pull mine up so that I could got it right in front of me.
Exactly.
But tell me the biggest features of the admin piece that if I'm an IT tech guy in education, why do I need to have this on my Chromebooks?
So GoGuardian for Admins does filtering, monitoring, and theft recovery.
Okay.
So if you're an IT admin, you get a stack of Chromebooks in, and you are federally mandated to have some sort of filtering on it, right?
Right.
So the filtering piece, we are your CIPA compliant web filter. In terms of monitoring, since we're on the device, we can tell you pretty much everything that's happening on that device. And so in terms of monitoring, we can really make sure that your students are safe and or on task. It's pretty hard to figure out if your filtering is working if you don't have any idea what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Right. Visibility is super, super key.
Yeah. You know, one of the key features I really like about the admin piece, now that you told us that, is the dashboard's great. So, you know, the moment I log in, I can pretty much get everything I need right off the dashboard. I've been very impressed with the dashboard, mainly because we don't have a lot of users, but I can see instantly where my users, what's the major underneath top sites. I can see exactly what's bouncing out there. I can see where that comes in really handy with larger schools using large Chromebook rollouts, so
sure.
they can actually see that. I noticed that one of the cool features you guys have is a direct Google link in right there in the menu. You know, I can go down right under whitelist, blacklist, and I've got a Google pop in. And I didn't know what that did until the other day, and I popped into it, and it's got all these links that these kids have gone to, and right there underneath it, it's got a lock or an unlock right there on the piece. That's pretty hardcore. So, you guys got a lot of Google folks working for you, or do you guys work directly with Google, or what's your deal with Google?
What's our deal with Google? We love Google.
Yeah, we do too. So.
Yeah, so the integration is great. We get to know what's happening on the device, and so we can tell what sort of Google Docs are being used, what the Google searches are. We have a few ex-Googlers at GoGuardian. I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of our channel partners, guys, Mark Russo. You may have met him. He's also an ex-Googler. Our CTO, it was at Google as well. And so we really get it when you're talking about how Google works and the way Google does things. They've been kind enough to work really closely with us as well. As you guys know, the education filtering market is not a sort of Google-sized cool opportunity in terms of money, but they really care about student outcomes, and so they're working well with us in terms of getting new things on the dashboard. Adding API access to some previously inaccessible features. They give us a lot of their time, and we appreciate that.
That's cool.
That's very cool.
Beyond just the whitelist, blacklist stuff, how granular do you guys get with Google? I mean, what can we look forward to using it granular in Google with docs and with extensions and things like that?
Actually, Google just launched a new extension manager in the Google Admin panel.
Uh-huh.
And so if you jump into that, you'll see the sort of insight that they're giving you. We're building on top of that with a new version of the GoGuardian admin panel, so that you'll have much better insight into all the extensions and the applications that are being used. Right now, we give you a flavor of the apps and extensions, but we're finding that we need to go a little deeper. And so they've opened up programmatic access to a lot of information. So you guys will be seeing it very soon.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
very
cool. So in that granular piece with Google right now, can we see what docs our users are opening or sharing or anything like that? Yeah, you can see the docs that users are opening. You can see the searches. You can see individual YouTube videos. If there's one YouTube video in question, you can get into the details of that and see over time how many users, how many students have accessed the video and who. Yeah.
And you can decide from right there whether or not to whitelist or blacklist it, or add it to a certain category.
I think that's really cool that inside the YouTube blacklist, you guys give it the ability to do category, channels, videos, keywords. That's pretty in depth for such a piece at the price point you guys have it at. I mean, you're selling this at a great price. It's a great product for that price point. That's pretty amazing.
and that's something that we saw was lacking in some other options. You could just use YouTube restricted mode, but it doesn't that doesn't really let you choose whether or not a specific video is appropriate. And so we'll have teachers decide that they'll have a certain set of videos for a classroom. We'll whitelist those videos, and so you can guarantee.
Cool. Well, sorry, we had a little freeze glitch there.
Little glitch, sorry. Things went a little weird there for a second.
But it was like 3 seconds, so you're cool.
You're
so.
good.
Yeah. But actually, so Hangouts can get crazy every once in a while. But this is actually interesting. Something I learned while I was at Google. Hangouts was supposed to be an enterprise video chat software that Google was going to make billions and billions of dollars. Well, not billions, hundreds of millions of dollars on.
Yeah.
Right. But then they decided to give it away for free.
Well, it's much like they did for education. It's amazing. We were just talking. We'll talk about that for a second. Websites for schools are so passe. Back in the day when the cloud didn't exist, that was the intent with content management. Schools are trying to build these, using SharePoint or whatever they could get their hands on. And it's funny, Google stepped in and changed every bit of that for education. I mean, almost instantaneously. But here, have it all for free, and here's some unlimited storage to go along with it. Pretty amazing stuff. And then, the Chromebook has just blown the door wide open, and then, here comes GoGuardian to offer that other piece that we need, which per unit is so affordable. So okay, so we've talked about admins for a second. We don't use the teacher part. So tell me, what does it do, and how would my teachers use it in class?
That's next week.
Oh, is it next week? I'm sorry.
You done jumped ahead.
I apologize. I didn't read the notes. Then let's jump.
He's the admin guy.
I'm sure Tyler could give you better information than I can.
Cool. Then we'll wait.
That's right.
That's okay.
Tune in next week on the teacher side.
I'll jump back to this one then.
Okay.
Because I actually had another question.
All right.
Inside it, so it's really interesting. I never have any flagged activity. So how do I get flagged activity? Is that because my students aren't going where they're not supposed to go? Is that what it comes down to?
It sounds like it, because flagged activity, what it does is it reads every word on the screen when you grab a web page.
Yeah.
And we look for terms. We look for terms that are specifically dangerous, right? So if there's a site that the URL might be something innocuous like carebears.com, but if the content on that site is about violence and it's about illegal activities, then you want to know that, right? The URL doesn't always tell you what's going on.
You gotta watch out about those Care Bears. They'll cut you.
That's all I got. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Those Care Bears are pretty rough. So then I'll ask about this one. We don't use this one either. Theft recovery. So get in depth with me there. Do I need to be using that? Is that how do I enable that? And what does it do for me with my? Like I said, I'm sending mine home for homebound students. So anything could happen.
Yeah, so most of the time, theft recovery is actually a sort of lost and found use case. Mm-hmm. If a student ends up with another student's Chromebook, or if they leave it, on the bus for, on a field trip, and then someone picks it up, what you do is you move that user into the Google organizational unit for theft recovery, and then we tell you where the Chromebook is in terms of using IP geolocation. If someone's typing on the Chromebook, we can get screenshots, right? And so you can tell pretty quickly whether or not the Chromebook is on campus or off campus. If it's been flown to some other country, really simple things like that. And so we found that it's pretty easy to do lost and found use case with it. We're actually going to be able to track individual device IDs soon. So this is something that Google just let us do. So you'll be able to tell if Johnny has Jimmy's Chromebook. You'll be able to tell if it's been lost, where it ended up. There's going to be a lot more flexibility or investment in the device itself. Our main priority is the student, but protecting your investment in the device is also helpful.
Yeah, man, that is
And there's the interesting part of running interviews. I thought the mic was on, so I'm sitting here talking to myself in the office. That's pretty much how that works out. Hey, we're listening to Matt Jones with Go Guardian. Great interview we had with the Go Guardian folks. If you haven't looked at the piece, definitely check them out. GoGuardian.com. Wonderful, wonderful piece. I think you'll enjoy the piece if you're using Chromebooks, and your teachers will definitely enjoy the Go Guardian piece. It's a really, really great piece. David's actually chatting with me. He's off, and I think he's in Botswana or Bora Bora. I'm not sure. But he was laughing at me too for talking to myself without the microphone on. So, hey, I tell you what we're going to do right now is one of our favorite musicians that we like to listen to and like to feature is Nick C. And it's David's cousin. It's just a family thing. But Nick C, he has a new album out called Living on the Outside. You can find it online at nickc.com. You can also find him on Twitter at Nick C. Check it out. This is a new tune from that album that David had downloaded, got all the songs for it. It's Nick C with How Long? Be right back.
When you find you're just a man, afraid of his past, and you've learned it all before, but the lessons didn't last. Why won't you become all of the things you love? Why must you wait and see if you can wait for me? How long we stay with me? How long we stay with me? When you just can't find enough to live, I throw it all away. All the glimmers of a hope you give are all but bound to fade. Why won't you become all of the things you love? Then why must you wait and see if you can wait for me? How long we stay with 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 me? Spread your wings and fly high above the earth. Take your love and mine, take it all for what it's worth. But how long will you stay with me? 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 How long will you stay with me?
Hey, you're listening to EduTech Guys, coming to you live from Hope, Arkansas. That was Nick C with How Long from his new album, Living on the Outside. You can check it out at nickc.com or catch him on Twitter at Nick C. Hey, listen, I'm glad to be here. Catch us on Twitter at EduTechGuys. If you want to drop me a question, hit hashtag ETGChat, and I'll try to get back with you as soon as I can. Watching that as it's flying by here on the screen and trying to keep up with everything by myself. I have to say, David's on vacation. Have a good vacation, because this is hard to do with one guy. It's actually kind of rough. Anyway, listen to the Best Of show. We just heard from the Go Guardian guys about all the great stuff that they do at Go Guardian. That was really some of my favorite parts, and you actually heard me do a great flub when we were interviewing about the admin, and I forgot it was just admin and not the teacher side of it. That's how I roll, even though I have the show notes right here in front of me. But listen, so I've got a great one on here. A while back, one of our good friends is Kevin Honeycutt, and David has known Kevin for a long time, and it has been my pleasure to get to know Kevin over the past year or so. And if you want to talk about somebody that's on top of things, KevinHoneycutt.com. Kevin is on top of things, and he really knows. He's got his finger on the pulse of where education is going, where it's been, and he's one of those really cool cats. In fact, I understand he's in Arkansas. I think today and tomorrow he's going to be at Lakeside in Hot Springs speaking with their folks. So they've got a treat in store, I can tell you. One of our good friends, Stoney Evans, is there. He's the one of the media specialists at the high school. So I know Stoney's pretty excited about having Kevin in there at Lakeside in Hot Springs. Anyway, back in April, Kevin came in to do a workshop and a convention conference up in the middle part of the state in Arkansas, and David was tasked with picking him up at the airport and taking him to the conference. So we took that opportunity on that day to do a live broadcast from the car. They had to drive from Little Rock about an hour and a half to the conference site, and so we took that opportunity to do an interview. And so this is about 14 minutes of some of the discussion we had while they were in the car. So please understand, this is coming into a car, I think from FaceTime, through the podcast, over the air, and all that kind of good stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. But this is Kevin Honeycutt back in April with David Henderson on the road with the EduTech guys.
So we cover all kinds of things. Kevin's main focus, well, I'm not sure what Kevin's main focus is going to be, what he's supposed to be doing. No, we're gonna look at some of his Launch Me stuff. And so that, helping teachers, especially, we've got some really good folks involved. In fact, we've had several of them on the show before. Susan Gilly is one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, so she's one of our Thai folks. And my goal in trying to get, in fact, I kind of helped persuade the powers that be to get Kevin in here and to really focus on the Power Up side, or the Launch Me side, is that those folks who are doing things for their school, in their classroom, where they're kind of the local superstar, and maybe they've done some outside stuff, take them to the next level, take them to the Kevin Honeycutt level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what the Launch Me, at least from what I understand, that's what the Launch Me does. I could be way wrong, and we're just shooting people out of the building. I don't know.
Hey, as long as you can land them back on a water-based drone, you're right up there with everybody else, man.
We could try that. I think we could work on that.
I think we have all these like local heroes, these cult of personality teachers who are really good, but when they're not connected, they're very vulnerable. Because they're at the mercy of the next school board election or the next hire that doesn't understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're rock stars one minute and they're gone the next. And so the sooner we get them connected to the larger networks of people, so that the world knows who they are, and the world checks in with the school, and the school realizes the world notices, and suddenly they are some pig and they won't become bacon.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a hurry to get them connected to a larger world so they don't become, I don't know, I think the difference between global and snow global, they can be great inside the snow globe, but if they're not global, they're vulnerable, and their programs are vulnerable, and their kids are vulnerable,
Right.
To everyone just not seeing the value, and they go away overnight. And we've seen that happen over and over. So how do we get them connected? And I don't mean just to get credit for themselves, but to get visibility for their program, for student success, for why Maker works, STEM works, STEAM works, whatever they're doing, to back their play in a bigger world than the local.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're kind of the app sumo of the education world. You're going to help those folks get out there. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times they don't get it. They don't get the value of that yet. And they don't get their vulnerability yet because they're freshmen. They're all excited. But they don't get that the winds can change pretty quick, you know?
Yeah.
Things can go away. So, you know, how do you build, what's the word, sustainability? You know, and I think that comes with the world noticing. For some reason, local systems notice when the world notices.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, something else I noticed too is that when they're in their small little, they're contained at their level and they're not really getting their word out and they're not getting any there you go, that's a boys and that a boys and things like that, then they can actually slow down and they stop growing. So, you know, a network like LaunchMe can make sure that they continue to grow their product.
Yeah. I think when you start comparing yourself to other people and you start seeing, look, there's a lot of good stuff going on, it somehow feeds your fire. And also going to conferences, meeting other people, and finding out that you're on a road, a continuum that with lots of other people. When you're a local hero, you can do one good thing and you think, well, I'm done. I'm done. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
No. That's the beginning. That's how change starts, but that's not how it keeps going. Right? We gotta keep feeding ourselves with other people and other influences and not get incestuous in our thinking. From one state to another, from one school to another, from one country to another. You know?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So the platform, the LaunchMe platform, are you guys going to blow it out like, you know, forums, you know, like a Slack kind of thing, so that there's all these open forums and, you know, helping the communication, you know, being the basis for the communication?
We have a Facebook group. Now, LaunchMe, up until now, has been a group of presenters who are trying to get beyond their local zip code, right? But LaunchMe for teachers, and we also do LaunchMe for students, because we think that kids, if they're doing great things, should be putting that out there globally too, because who knows what scholarship is looking for them from 3 states away, and they haven't even looked for it yet. So we think great student work should also be viral and should be out there and global. So, you know, Ginger and I haven't really looked at taking that Facebook community and blowing it out, but we are open to that kind of thing. I think we could pick up a hashtag or two and see what, I mean, this may be the shot heard around the world, this particular thing here. I think a lot of people don't get that Teachers Global isn't a threat. Like, a lot of people are afraid if teachers ever saw their possibilities, they'd quit and go somewhere else.
Right.
Well, okay, so I challenge you to make your schools worth working in, number one. And then they won't leave. But also, a great Jedi teacher probably needs to get out beyond the cornfields of local just to feed their fire so they won't want to leave. I think they may stay longer if you reinforce them, if you invest in them. You know, I think smart systems let their Jedis go out and flex their lightsaber powers once in a while.
There you go. That's right.
So they either, one, don't just die, you know, of inattention, or two, leave for better options. I think a good leader sees this, understands this, and invests in this.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, making sure that they're getting the nurturing they need locally, so they stay local. Because those Jedis have got to train Padawans. You know, if they don't train Padawans, then you got to have those local ones hanging out there to make sure that, you know, they're. And you're right. I think that's the biggest problem we're finding. To me, what I see, and me personally, my biggest deal is that I've got a big voice and I'm a big boy and I like a lot of big ideas, but locally I've pinnacled. I've hit the top. Nobody wants to hear me talk anymore.
Right. Right.
Maybe that's a bad thing or a good thing.
Well, think about this. You know, you hire new teachers, and you're a brand new teacher, right? You just walked into a system. You see a whole bunch of people that have tenure or they've been there a long time, right? And they're doing 10 years ago. You see one crazy person, right? And people are afraid of that person, but most of the cool stuff the school gets for headlines come from that place. So you got that one crazy guy versus those 5 Sith Lords, right? But
Yeah.
we're outnumbered right now. So if we're going to grow Padawans, we have to get a little more gravitas. I mean beyond local recognition. That these people say, wow, all over the world, what they're doing seems to matter more. Maybe I'll trust that 1 or 2 people over those 5 Sith Lords that really need to retire.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you lose a brand new teacher to the Sith Lords, it's hard to get them back.
Yes.
Once they join the culture, and once they lower their game, it's extremely hard to raise your game once you lowered it.
Well, and I think how many Padawans we lose to selling shoes or taking a job 9 to 5 to get out of education completely because the dark side won.
I wouldn't blame them. It's a survival thing, and a lot of schools will say they have a mentoring program, but they put the person with the most tenure in charge of that new Padawan, and it's not always the person with the most tenure, that should be in charge of them. Right? They should carefully pick the current teachers who are doing what the school thinks is the future to be the mentors of those new teachers.
Yep, I agree. Taking a word from and doing that, I think it's really interesting. I love the way I've been doing this a long time, and I love the way the net has changed. And I love now. David and I were talking the other day that we're talking about websites and the fact that we don't need content management anymore because the cloud's there now. Google and all that's all out there. Twitter's there for social, Facebook, Google Plus, Tumblr, all that good stuff's out there. But to steal a word from current marketing, that's the hardest thing for our teachers to learn to do for themselves, for our presenters, is branding. Helping them get their brand out there and how to understand how to get their brand out there. I think that's a big deal. Would you agree?
Yes, and I think that there's some misperception about brand. People fear brand because they're afraid a teacher will become an individual and divorce themselves from a system. A smart system wants to be branded too, right? What do we stand for? What does this school stand for? Who are we?
Right.
If you haven't built anything like that, all you have is a mission statement that's 25 years old and a white policy manual on a shelf collecting dust, then the Padawans either have to join that sad, archaic model or build a brand. If a school would move a little faster and say, let's build a brand, let's call ourselves something, and let's let people sort of join that brand or, join under the banner of that brand. It's a little more exciting, a little more now, a little more hip, a little more accessible, a little more attractive to digital parents shopping for schools on Android devices.
Yeah.
And so I see both things. I see the extreme of people who get it and they're riding that front end of the wave, and I see the ones who are sort of protecting the past, in love with what they used to be, polishing their snow globe, of everything they used to be good at. It's a big continuum there.
Yeah. So
we're being pretty rebellious here on the road. What is it about driving down the road?
Something about driving.
Rush hour.
That's right,
It makes
man.
you willing to say the stuff you would never say.
That's right. So
But I think one of the things that is key here, though, is definitely those folks in charge, whoever that administration is, whatever that administration is. That's a key part of this. Without, the administration has to be willing to be a part of that movement. I mean, and really, that's exactly what you're doing. You're moving from this static, we are here, we are these 4 walls, out to, yes, we're these 4 walls, but guess what? This is what we're doing. And in the process, not only is that teacher building themselves up, building that person up or those people up, depending on how many are involved there, but they're also helping with getting to the branding. They're also helping with the school's brand in general. So that is a sweet car. Sorry.
Paint that blue. That's my wife's car.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Anyway, sorry, distraction. But I think that the administration has got to be such that they recognize folks who are on that verge of launching out and who are doing cool things, and then want to share that person out. So you're talking about some kind of flexible scheduling, flexible contracting. I mean, something along those lines that let those folks kind of breathe beyond the contract that most of your teachers or most of your folks have. So that gives them that breathing room. But then also to say, okay, yes, we're going to give you all that. And as you go forth and you grow, you're going to help us grow because you're talking about what school you're with.
Right, exactly.
Or, what education service center you work for or whatever.
Free advertising.
Yeah,
If they understand that, right? If they
Right.
understand that. So I think of it like this. Most schools are like the Titanic. And you have a handful of teachers that are in speedboats out in front of the Titanic, bungeed to the deck. Bungeed to the deck. So they have flexibility, but they're still tied to the Titanic. They can go out in front of the Titanic far enough to see the icebergs, see the challenges, see the opportunities, and the Titanic can change its course ever so slowly, but change it, with the guidance of those people in the speedboats. But if you see that as a threat and you make them all come back onto the deck of the Titanic, we can't do anything. We're all just waiting for the iceberg.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yes.
it's not a threat, but help me sub-brand. So let's say I call my classroom the Crazy Inman, Kansas, or Inman Schools Explorers. So I'm a sub-brand, right? I'm a sub-brand of Inman.
Right.
And the next classroom calls them the entrepreneurs, the Inman entrepreneurs. Inman is in the name every time.
Right.
If Inman is smart, they start to build a brand on top of us, Nabisco, whatever you want to call it. So people start saying, wow, that Inman school system seems to breed a whole lot of wonderful sort of crazy teachers who have great big thoughts. And then it helps the entire brand. But if the brand doesn't notice those people, if it punishes them, you pretty much tell us to leave.
Right.
Basically.
Hey, welcome back. That was Kevin Honeycutt and David from back in April. Honestly, don't remember the actual date. Yeah, I can't remember it. I will. But hey, you can't tell me you don't love to hear Kevin Honeycutt talk. Even if it's a recording from a moving vehicle going down Interstate 40 heading to the next conference. Kevin Honeycutt's the man, and I'm sure we'll have him on soon. We always do. Like I said, he is in Arkansas, I think today. Let me look at my notes. David actually sent me notes and said, "No, idiot, he's here." No. Yeah, he's at Lakeside tomorrow. Lakeside Public Schools in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Kevin is there tomorrow. Not sure what he's talking about, but whatever it is, trust me, it's worth listening to. So that's great. I mean, if you're in Arkansas and you're near Lakeside and they'll let you in the door, go hear Kevin Honeycutt. Best of show. David's on vacation. I'm here by myself and having a great time. And I just had a question come up on the chat. Will you guys be at Podstock? Podstock. Unfortunately, no. We were invited, and some things just did not play out for us to do Podstock this year. I feel terrible about it because Ginger Lumen personally asked David and I to be there, and we respect Ginger Lumen tremendously. But we will not be at Podstock. I tell you what will be fun. If you would like to chat with us from Podstock, I'll make time to do a Skype, any of that stuff. Anything you want to come in and tell me how Podstock is going, we'll do a live interview from Podstock. Love to do it. Just drop me an email, jeff@edutechguys.com or david@edutechguys.com. And just let us know, and we'll do a live chat, 5, 10, 15 minutes from Podstock. You can tell us what's going on. I would highly recommend that if you're going to be there, hey, drop out some periscopes. We'd like to see what's going on at Podstock this year, because that would be really, really cool to see what's happening at Podstock. So if you're going to be there and you're listening to the show, and I'll drop this out on the Twitter also, but Ed Ventures is right now chatting with me online, and Ed Ventures, let me know. Just drop us a line, and we'll make time, no matter what time it is, and we'll turn on the recording devices, and we'll get an update from Podstock. Be our man in the field kind of thing. That would be super, super cool, and it'll be much, much gracious for doing that for us from Podstock. And that's cool. We might be able to, David it just made a point also on chat. I've got like 17 chat windows open here. David made a good point that we could maybe virtually attend Podstock. and possibly broadcast live. It's just physically was hard for us to get there. So I bet we could swing that. I agree. We'll take a look at that. I'll tell you what we're going to do before the rest of the show hits. I've got to do a little bit of catching up here. My social media is blowing up here, and I need to answer some stuff quick and send some stuff back. So please listen to another song. This is one of our favorite musicians also. In fact, the music here on our title track is his music, and it's really, really great music. So sit back and relax. This is Nick Flora, which is a great song. Nobody Gets Out Clean, and I think we can all attest to that.
I was shown how to love at an early age. I was given attention and time. And if I needed help, I looked for someone else. And never learned to do it by myself. I was taught to fear what I did not know, but to trust a God I could not see, to look high to heaven and fear the fires of hell, but never to trust myself. Nobody gets out clean. There's no such thing as a great escape. The struggle in everything. There's no finding another way. Walk a mile on the other side, and then you'll finally see that nobody gets out clean. There's a part of me that still feels 13, and watching my brother fall away, and I would take his place as a golden boy, still so young, but the heart of the good son still beats inside of me, and he's scared to make mistakes. But nobody gets out clean. There's no such thing as a getaway. The struggle in everything. And there's no finding another way. Walk a mile on the other side, and then you'll finally see nobody gets out clean.
Hey, you're listening to EduTech Guys, coming to you live from Hope, Arkansas. Want to give a big shout out to Southwest Arkansas Educational Co-op and Hope Public Schools for allowing us to do this every week. It's so much fun. Hey, check us online, www.edutechguys.com. You can catch us on the radio, radio.edutechguys.com. That'll take you right to the Mixler site where you can listen to us. We like Mixler. We use Mixler. Mixler's fun. Mixler's good to us. Twitter, at EduTechGuys. Instagram, EduTechGuys. Facebook, EduTechGuys. Hey, you get the hint. Go to Google, type in EduTechGuys. I'm pretty sure you'll stumble across us somehow, somewhere, sometime. Hey, that was Nick Flora with Nobody Gets Out Clean. That's a great album. If you want to catch some more of Nick Flora's work, he does a wonderful podcast himself. He does everything about music and social media you'd ever want to know. He's a great guy, and he likes to tour the U.S. and do house parties, which is really cool, having him come to your place. Anyway, visit him, nickflora.com, or catch him on Twitter, at Nick Flora. Listen, we are getting ready to wrap this thing up, and Adventures, thanks. I hope you had a fun hour. This has been a great show. Want to do our favorite thing. David's not here, so in honor of David, I'm going to do it. It's time for Google Tip of the Week. There you go. So this Google Tip of the Week is just from me to you. I'll drop out the link here in just a second. But what it is there's some new editing features in the latest Google Docs and Sheets for mobile apps for both Android and iOS. We get a lot of debates about this, well, you're gonna blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. If you're using an iOS device or you're using an Android device, if you're using any device, iOS is great with Google Apps. And so they've added some really cool stuff. Now you can actually edit a document you're viewing in print layout mode. So that puts it into a whole new fun game plan for using that. You might not think that's a big deal, but now if you're a Docs user on iOS or Android, then you're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about, the opportunity that you now have to do editing inside print layout. So when you're in print layout mode, now you can bop in there and fix some things real quick before you drop out there. Also, they've added, you can add new and edit existing conditional formatting rules in Sheets. That's on the Android app. And I happen to understand that that's coming out pretty soon for the iOS also. That you can do that now in some areas, but they're about to blow that one out too. If you're not keeping up with iOS and Android apps from Google Docs, you need to, because that's some happening stuff. It's just one more reason, if you're wanting to use an iOS device, an iPad Pro, do it. Got to give a shout out to the iPad Pro. The 12-inch iPad Pro is phenomenal. I have a lot of good friends. In fact, our own Greg Moore uses one, I think, pretty much almost exclusively at this point. He loves the keyboard. He loves the iPad Pro. I've got to throw one more out for you. The 9.7. You talk about an amazing device. It has a 12-megapixel camera. It's shooting 4K video. And if you're smart and you buy a Padcaster from the guys at padcaster.com, yeah, I'm giving a shout out to Padcaster. If you buy a Padcaster from them and you house that iPad Pro in a Padcaster with that extended microphone, and you add that extended light, or you want to add a GoPro on top of it, you have now got a video broadcasting rig par none. I mean, you talk about a hardcore piece. You talk about a really amazing piece. The fastest processor, the largest camera. I mean, what in the heck? What in the heck? You're talking about some amazing stuff. And the really cool part about an iPad Pro 9.7 is the FaceTime camera is a 5-megapixel camera. You're shooting in HD on the FaceTime camera. So if you're doing podcasting, video blogs, anything like that, you're talking about a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful device. But hey, you could get me rambling about that for days. And I see Chad's telling me that too. Chad's right. The iPad Pro, it is too big. Now, it is too big for students, but I don't believe it's too big for educators. And I don't believe it's too big for a presentation and using it as a secondary device. I personally believe most people could easily move to an iPad Pro 12 from a MacBook. I think it's very doable, especially with the keyboard case. But hey, I can ramble. Like I said, I could ramble on for days. It's been a great show. I can't believe I made an hour. I didn't think I would make an hour by myself. David, have a great vacation. Miss you, buddy. I hope everything's going great. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. I'm Jeff Madlock, and I want to thank you much for listening to the EduTech Guys. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.